The crumbling stone walls of Castle Drachenblut stood sentinel over the village of Ravenwood for 8 centuries, its ancient spires piercing the midnight sky like accusing fingers. Lord Viktor Drachenblut, last of his bloodline, watched the village lights flicker in the valley below. 600 years of existence had dulled his appetite for nearly everything, blood being the sole exception. The emptiness of immortality weighed heavily upon him. Viktor ran his pale fingers through his raven hair, his crimson eyes reflecting the distant lights. In all his centuries he had known power, wealth, and fear, but never love. Not true love. His existence proved what he had always believed. Monsters were not meant for such tender emotions. "My lord," his steward Gregor whispered from the doorway, "the village tithe has arrived." Viktor barely acknowledged him. The monthly blood tributes, barely enough to keep his hunger at bay, were a reminder of the uneasy truce between predator and prey. The villagers feared him as they should. Fear was the only emotion humans could truly feel toward his kind. "Have them leave it in the great hall," Viktor replied, his voice like velvet drawn over stone. "I will attend to it later." But when Viktor descended the grand staircase hours later, he found more than the usual offerings. Beside the ornate chest of blood vials stood a young woman, her auburn hair catching the candlelight. The scent of her, cinnamon, parchment, and something uniquely her own, reached him before he reached the bottom step. "You are not part of the tithe," he stated, maintaining a careful distance. Amelia Harrison clutched a leather-bound book to her chest. "I am the village librarian," she said, her voice steadier than her heartbeat. "I was asked to deliver the tribute tonight, but I also came on my own accord. The Historical Society believes your family archives contain information about our town's founding." Viktor regarded her with cold curiosity. Most humans avoided his gaze. This one met it directly. Her eyes were the color of summer storms, gray with flecks of blue. "The archives are not for mortal hands," he said dismissively. "Then perhaps immortal hands could assist," she countered, unintimidated. "Knowledge should not die, even if its keepers cannot." Her audacity almost amused him. Almost. "Leave the tribute. Dawn approaches." She nodded, placing the book she carried atop the chest. "This is my offering, a collection of village stories I have transcribed. Perhaps it will interest you." After she departed, Viktor opened the leather journal out of idle curiosity. It was not village history but personal thoughts. A journal of unrequited love, written in elegant script. He read through the night, entranced by her innermost thoughts, her dreams, her yearnings for experiences she believed would never be hers. The longing in her words mirrored his own ancient emptiness. One entry stopped him cold. "I dream of him again, the lord of the castle. Not as the village fears him, but as I imagine him to be. Lonely, perhaps. Cursed, certainly. What would it be like to dance in that ancient ballroom, to see the world through eyes that have witnessed centuries? To be truly seen by someone who has looked upon everything? These are foolish thoughts. He is death and I am merely mortal. Yet I cannot help but wonder if monsters, too, need someone to see beyond their fangs." Viktor closed the journal, his hands trembling slightly. She had mistakenly left her personal diary instead of the village histories. In his 6 centuries, no one had ever seen him as anything but a monster to be feared or a power to be appeased. Never as someone who might also yearn for connection. "Impossible," he whispered to the empty hall. Yet something long dormant stirred within him, something dangerous. Before the sun rose, Viktor made a silent vow. He would make every secret wish in Amelia Harrison's journal come true, even if only to prove to himself that monsters could not love, nor be loved in return. The following evening, Amelia frantically searched her home for her missing journal. Horror dawned as she realized what must have happened. She had left her personal diary at the castle. Her most private thoughts, including those about the vampire lord himself, were in his possession. A knock at her door startled her. No one visited the village librarian after dark. She opened it to find a black carriage waiting, its driver motionless on the seat. "Miss Harrison," the driver said, his voice hollow. Lord Drachenblut requests your presence regarding a certain text you left in his possession. Her stomach dropped. I apologize for the mistake. I can retrieve it immediately. The Lord insists you join him. He wishes to discuss its contents. The thought sent icy fear through her veins, but curiosity and something else, something she dared not name, compelled her forward. The drive to the castle passed in silence, the ancient fortress growing larger as they approached, its windows glowing with candlelight. Viktor waited in the castle library, a cavernous room with shelves stretching to the vaulted ceiling. Books collected over centuries lined the walls. He stood perfectly still beside a roaring fire, her journal in his pale hands. You read my private thoughts, Amelia said, foregoing pleasantries. You left them in my possession, he replied, his voice betraying no emotion. It was a mistake. She extended her hand. Please return it. Instead of giving her the journal, Viktor gestured to the room. You wrote of wishing to see my library. Amelia faltered. I wrote many foolish things. Is knowledge foolish, Miss Harrison? You wrote of wondering what centuries of collected wisdom might contain. He moved to a shelf and retrieved a leather-bound tome. This is a first edition of Astronomical Observations from the 1500s. You wrote of wanting to see the stars as they were charted before modern light obscured them. Her breath caught. He had indeed read everything. I did not come here to discuss astronomy, she said carefully. No, you came for this. He held up her journal. But while you are here, would you deny yourself the opportunity to see what you have only imagined? He gestured to the library around them. You wrote of wondering what treasures might be hidden here. Now you can see for yourself. Against her better judgment, Amelia moved deeper into the library. Her fingers trailed along ancient spines, her librarian's heart racing at texts she had only read about in scholarly journals. First editions, handwritten manuscripts, texts believed lost to history. Why are you doing this? She asked, turning back to him. Perhaps I am merely curious about the woman who sees monsters as something more than monsters. I never called you a monster, she countered. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. You implied it. He is death, and I am merely mortal. Heat rushed to her cheeks. Those were private thoughts. Indeed. Now, would you care to see the astronomical charts? The night is clear, and the observatory tower offers an unparalleled view. She should demand her journal and leave. Instead, she found herself following him up a spiral staircase to a tower room with a domed ceiling that opened to the night sky. A massive telescope, far more advanced than she expected, dominated the space. This contradicts the village stories, she said, approaching it with wonder. They say vampires have no interest in science or progress. Eternity becomes tedious without pursuits, Viktor replied. I have witnessed the birth and death of countless scientific theories. The stars, however, remain constant companions through the centuries. For hours, he showed her constellations, explaining how they had shifted over his lifetime, pointing out stars that no longer existed but whose light still reached them. Amelia forgot her fear as they discussed astronomy, history, and literature, subjects she had never been able to explore so deeply with anyone in the village. When she finally checked her watch, she gasped. It is nearly dawn. I must return. You are free to go, Viktor said, handing her the journal. The carriage awaits. She clutched the diary to her chest, expecting to feel relief. Instead, she felt strangely disappointed. Thank you for the observatory. One small wish fulfilled, he said enigmatically. Good night, Miss Harrison. On the carriage ride home, Amelia found herself wondering what he meant by one small wish. Opening her journal, she discovered a pressed moonflower marking a page where she had written about seeing the night-blooming flowers in the castle gardens. He had read every word. Over the following weeks, Amelia found herself invited back to Castle Drachenblut under various pretexts. Each visit fulfilled another secret desire from her journal. Access to rare books, stories of historical events Viktor had witnessed firsthand. Music played on instruments centuries old. Never did he mention the most dangerous wishes in her journal. those involving himself. The passages where she wondered what it might be like to dance with an immortal, to feel the touch of hands that had witnessed history, to be seen by eyes that had beheld centuries. Until the night of the blood moon, Amelia arrived to find the great hall transformed. Candles by the hundreds illuminated the space, and the ancient ballroom, unused for generations, gleamed with polished floors and restored grandeur. Viktor appeared at the top of the stairs, dressed in formal attire from an era long past. You wrote of wondering what it would be like to dance in this hall as it might have been centuries ago. Her heart quickened. I wrote many things I never expected to experience. Yet here you are. He descended, each step deliberate. The blood moon rises once a century. In the old days, it was cause for celebration among my kind. And now I am the only one left to remember. He extended his hand. Would you honor a relic of the past with a dance? She should refuse. This crossed the boundary from academic interest into something far more dangerous. Yet her hand slipped into his before she could reconsider. His touch was cool but not cold. His movements graceful as he led her in a dance from another era. Music played from somewhere. A phonograph, she realized. But in the vastness of the hall, it felt as though invisible musicians accompanied them. You dance as though you have practiced for centuries, she said, breathless as he guided her across the floor. I have had time to perfect many skills, he replied, the faintest smile touching his lips. Though I must confess, I have not danced in nearly 200 years. Why not? His eyes darkened. Dancing requires a partner worthy of the effort. The implied compliment warmed her cheeks. They continued in silence, the ancient vampire and the village librarian, moving as one across the ballroom floor. When the music ended, he did not release her hand immediately. Your journal, he said finally. You wrote of more than books and stars and dancing. Amelia tensed. I never meant for anyone to read those words. Yet they were written, and I have read them. His crimson gaze held hers. You wrote of wondering what it would be like to be truly seen by immortal eyes, to be known by someone who has known everything. A foolish fantasy, she whispered. Is it? He studied her face. I have existed for 6 centuries, Miss Harrison, and in all that time, no one has ever looked at me as you do, as though I am more than the monster they fear, as though I am someone worth knowing. Everyone deserves to be seen, she said softly. Even monsters? Especially those we mistake for monsters. Something shifted in his expression, vulnerability flickering behind the immortal mask. Before he could respond, the great clock struck midnight, breaking the spell between them. I should return home, Amelia said, suddenly aware of how dangerous this was becoming. She was developing feelings for a vampire lord. Feelings that could only lead to heartbreak or worse. As you wish. Viktor stepped back, composing himself. The carriage will take you. That night, Amelia made a resolution. She would not return to Castle Drachenblut. Whatever was developing between them could only end in tragedy. She was mortal, he was eternal. She would age and die, he would continue unchanged. Better to end it now, before her heart was irreparably damaged. She wrote him a letter explaining her decision and sent it with the monthly tribute. For 2 weeks, she heard nothing. No invitation arrived, no carriage appeared at her door. She told herself it was for the best, even as she found herself staring at the distant castle each night before bed. Then the dreams began. Dreams of blood and moonlight, of ancient rituals and immortal promises. In them, Viktor spoke to her across the distance, his voice in her mind. Come to me. There is more I must show you. On the 15th night, she could resist no longer. Taking a lantern, Amelia made the journey to Castle Drachenblut alone. The massive doors swung open at her approach, as though the castle itself had been waiting. Viktor stood in the great hall, his expression unreadable. You came. The dreams, she said. Were they your doing? No, he replied, surprising her. The blood bond has begun to form on its own. Blood bond. Alarm shot through her. I have never shared blood with you. Not directly, but your tears fell upon my hand that night we danced. Tears contain essence, not as powerful as blood, but enough to create a connection with one as old as I. He approached slowly. I did not seek this bond, Amelia, but I cannot deny its presence. What does it mean? It means your soul calls to mine across the divide between mortal and immortal. It means what you wrote in your journal about feeling drawn to this place, to me, was more than fantasy. His voice softened. It means what I have denied for centuries, that even monsters may find connection. She shook her head. I cannot do this. I am human. You are vampire, he finished. Death incarnate, as your village believes. Is that truly how you see me now, after all you have experienced here? No, she admitted. But that does not change what we are. Perhaps it should. Viktor gestured for her to follow him deeper into the castle. Against her better judgment, she did. He led her to a chamber she had never seen. Circular, with ancient symbols etched into the floor and walls. At its center stood a pedestal holding a crystal goblet filled with dark liquid. What is this place? She asked, her voice echoing. The ritual chamber. For 600 years, I have believed monsters cannot love, nor be loved in return. That we exist separate from humanity, predators to prey. He turned to her, his crimson eyes glowing in the dim light. You have challenged that belief with every word in your journal, with every moment in your presence. Viktor, I vowed to make your wishes come true, he interrupted. But there is one wish I have not yet fulfilled. The one you wrote of most frequently. Her breath caught. Which one? To be loved by someone who has seen everything and still chooses you. To be cherished by immortal hands that have held the weight of centuries. Tears filled her eyes. That is impossible. Is it? He approached the pedestal. This ritual dates back to the first of my kind. It allows a willing mortal to be transformed not through the traditional means of death and rebirth, but through choice and covenant. You would make me like you? The thought both terrified and thrilled her. No, Viktor said. I would offer you the choice. To remain human, to walk away and live your mortal life to its fullest, or to join me in eternity. Not as subordinate but as equal. Partner. Beloved. The word hung in the air between them. And if I choose mortality? Pain flickered across his face. Then I will respect your decision. The carriage will return you home, and I will never seek you out again. The fledgling blood bond will fade with time. And if I choose you? Viktor approached her slowly, taking her hands in his. Then we complete the bond. You drink of my blood, I of yours. The transformation is gradual, painless. You retain your soul, yourself, but gain eternity. Why would you offer this? She whispered. What am I to you? The impossible, he said simply. The one who saw beyond the monster to the man beneath. The first in 6 centuries to make me question whether I am truly damned. Amelia looked at the goblet, then back to Viktor. I need time to consider. Time is something I have in abundance, he replied. But know this, I have read your every thought, your every desire. I have fulfilled what wishes I could. But the one thing I cannot give you is certainty. Eternity is a long time to regret a decision made in haste. She nodded, backing away from the ritual chamber. I will return with my answer. Soon. That night, Amelia read through her journal again, seeing her own words through new eyes. Had she truly written so passionately about him? About wanting to be part of his world? The evidence was there in her own handwriting. Dreams and desires she had believed impossible. For 3 days she wrestled with the decision. On the 4th night, as storm clouds gathered over Ravenwood, she made her choice. The storm broke as Amelia approached Castle Drachenblut. Lightning illuminated the ancient stones, thunder shaking the ground beneath her feet. By the time she reached the massive doors, she was drenched to the bone, her resolve unshaken. Viktor met her in the entrance hall, his expression guarded. You have returned. I have made my decision, she said, water dripping from her hair and clothes. Before she could continue, shouts echoed from outside. The villagers, led by the mayor and several men carrying torches despite the rain, approached the castle. "What is happening?" Amelia asked, moving to the window. "They believe I have enchanted you," Viktor said grimly. "The mayor came yesterday, demanding your return. When I told him you were not here, he did not believe me. I must speak with them," she insisted, moving toward the door. Viktor caught her arm. "They are armed with more than torches. I smell silver and holy water. They come prepared for vampire hunting. They would not harm one of their own." "Are you certain?" Fear makes humans unpredictable. Ignoring his warning, Amelia stepped onto the castle steps. The crowd fell silent at her appearance. "Miss Harrison," the mayor called, "step away from that monster. We have come to free you from his thrall." "There is no thrall," she replied, raising her voice above the storm. "I came here of my own free will." "Impossible," the village priest interjected. "The vampire has corrupted you. Your soul is in peril." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Amelia saw faces she had known all her life, now twisted with fear and hatred. "Return to your homes," she pleaded. "There is no danger here." "The danger is allowing that creature to exist," the mayor shouted. "Too long we have lived in fear, paying blood tribute to a monster. Tonight, it ends." The mob surged forward. Viktor appeared beside Amelia, pushing her behind him protectively. "Stay inside," he commanded. "They will kill you. They can try." His voice was cold, ancient. Power radiated from him as he faced the villagers. "This woman is under my protection. Any who seek to harm her will answer to me." The mayor hesitated, then raised a crossbow loaded with a silver-tipped bolt. "Release her." "She is free to go whenever she wishes," Viktor replied calmly. "Ask her yourself." All eyes turned to Amelia. In that moment, she understood the true choice before her. Not just between mortality and immortality, but between fear and acceptance. Between hiding her feelings and embracing them fully. "I choose him," she declared, stepping forward to stand beside Viktor. "I choose to remain at Castle Drachenblut of my own free will." Gasps and shouts erupted from the crowd. The mayor raised his crossbow higher. "Then you are lost to us," he declared. "Step aside. The vampire dies tonight. If you harm him, you lose me forever," Amelia warned. "Is that what you want? To destroy one of your own in your blind hatred?" The crowd's resolve wavered. These were people she had known her entire life. People she had served as librarian, neighbor, friend. "Please," she continued, "return home. There is no evil here except what you bring with you." For a moment, it seemed her words might sway them. Then the priest stepped forward. "She is corrupted beyond salvation. The vampire's influence runs too deep." He raised a vial of what must have been holy water. "We must purify this place with fire and blood." The mayor fired his crossbow. Viktor moved with inhuman speed, catching the bolt inches from Amelia's heart. Blood dripped from his hand where the silver burned his flesh. "Enough!" Viktor's voice echoed with supernatural power. The storm intensified, lightning striking dangerously close to the crowd. "You have threatened what is mine. The covenant of protection between us is broken." The villagers began to retreat, suddenly remembering exactly what they faced. Not a reclusive noble, but an ancient vampire lord with powers they could scarcely comprehend. "Viktor, please." Amelia touched his arm. "Do not harm them. They act from fear." His eyes blazed crimson in the darkness. "And what would you have me do? Allow them to return with greater numbers? With better weapons?" She looked at the frightened faces of her former neighbors, then back to Viktor. "Show them mercy. Prove you are not the monster they believe." For a long moment, Viktor stood frozen in rage. Then, slowly, his posture relaxed. "Go," he commanded the villagers. "Return to your homes. The blood tribute ends tonight. You are released from that obligation. But know this. Any who approach this castle with intent to harm will not receive a second chance." The mayor lowered his crossbow. "And Miss Harrison?" Stays or goes as she chooses, Viktor replied. Her fate is her own to decide. The storm began to subside as the villagers retreated, casting fearful glances over their shoulders. When they had disappeared into the night, Viktor turned to Amelia. You risked your life, he said quietly. As did you. She took his injured hand in hers, examining the silver burn. You caught a bolt meant for me. I would catch 1,000 such bolts to keep you safe. The admission seemed to surprise him as much as her. Amelia led him back inside the castle. I came tonight to give you my answer. After what just happened, you might wish to reconsider. No. She met his gaze directly. What happened only confirms my decision. I choose you, Viktor. I choose eternity. He studied her face for any hint of doubt. You understand what this means? You will watch everyone you know grow old and die. The world will change around you while you remain. I understand. She smiled softly. But I will not be alone. Viktor led her to the ritual chamber once more. The crystal goblet still waited on the pedestal, filled with dark liquid. The ritual requires an exchange, he explained. My blood to transform you gradually. Your blood to complete our bond. Will it hurt? No. The pain comes from forced transformation. This is by choice, the oldest and purest form of vampire creation. Amelia approached the pedestal. What must I do? Drink, he instructed. Then I will take your blood, not to feed, but to bind us eternally. With trembling hands, she lifted the goblet to her lips. The liquid tasted of copper and something ancient, like earth and stars combined. Warmth spread through her body as she drank, not unpleasant but strange, as though her very cells were awakening to new possibilities. When she finished, Viktor gently took the goblet from her hands and set it aside. He drew her close, one hand cradling the back of her head. Are you certain? He asked one final time. In answer, Amelia tilted her head, exposing her neck. I am yours, as you are mine. His lips brushed her skin, fangs grazing her pulse point before sinking deeply into her throat. There was a moment of sharp pain, quickly replaced by euphoria as the blood bond formed fully between them. Images flashed through her mind, centuries of Viktor's existence, his loneliness, his wonder at finding her. She felt his emotions as though they were her own, his eternal cold giving way to warmth as he took her into himself. When he withdrew, he bit his own wrist and pressed it to her lips. Complete the circle, he whispered. Amelia drank, sealing their covenant. Power surged between them, ancient magic awakening in the symbols around the chamber. Light emanated from their joined bodies, illuminating the ritual space. When it was done, Viktor gathered her into his arms. How do you feel? Different, she murmured. More alive somehow. I can hear your thoughts. And I yours. He smiled, a true smile that transformed his face. The transformation will take time. Weeks, perhaps months. But it has begun. What happens now? Now? Viktor lifted her hand to his lips. Now we have eternity to discover each other. To fulfill not just the wishes in your journal, but every desire either of us has ever dreamed. 1 year later, Amelia stood on the castle balcony, watching the sunset with new eyes. Her transformation had completed gradually, painlessly, as Viktor promised. Her senses had sharpened, her strength increased, her connection to him deepening with each passing day. The village below had adjusted to the change in their relationship with Castle Drachenblut. No more blood tributes were collected, and in return, Viktor and Amelia protected the region from outside threats. Some villagers still feared them, but others had begun to understand that not all monsters were monstrous. Viktor joined her on the balcony, wrapping his arms around her waist. What are you thinking? That I never imagined this when I wrote those secret wishes in my journal, she replied, leaning against him. That a lonely vampire lord would find my diary of unrequited love and vow to make my wishes come true. Not all of them yet, he reminded her. You wrote of wanting to see Paris by moonlight, Venice at carnival, the ancient pyramids under desert stars. "We have time," she said, turning in his arms. "Eternity, remember? Eternity." He agreed, pressing his forehead to hers. "And I intend to spend every moment of it proving that monsters can indeed love, and be loved in return." As darkness fell completely, they stood together. No longer predator and prey, no longer immortal and mortal, but equals bound by choice and covenant. The journal that had started their journey sat preserved in the library, a testament to wishes fulfilled and a love that transcended the boundaries between life and death, between monster and human, between loneliness and belonging. In the end, Victor's greatest transformation had not been of Amelia's body, but of his own soul. And her greatest wish, to be truly seen and loved by someone who had witnessed everything, had indeed come true.